So if anyone wants to come up the front, they are more than welcome to do so. But this is an all-age introduction to the theme. This is for all of us. So in our Bible reading today, we have Jesus talking to a large crowd in what we call the Sermon on the Mount. Mount just meaning he's sitting on a mountain. When you imagine Jesus talking to a large crowd, who might be in the crowd? Any ideas? Children? What was it? Women? Men? Officials? Disciples? What was that? Donkeys, probably? Skeptics? Sick people? Priests? Pharisees? The picnic lunch was definitely listening. What was that? Poor people? Lawyers? Teenagers and troublemakers? Definitely. So we've got a large crowd. And when I first heard people talk about the Sermon on the Mount, they refer to the disciples in the crowd. And when I hear disciples, I think of those 12 special ones. But this is everybody. It's more than that. And we don't really know exactly who's in the crowd, but we do know that a lot of the people who are following Jesus were there because they were sick and they wanted to be healed. They were sick in body, in mind, in their way of the world, being poor, not having food. So this is the crowd, and Jesus gets up and he says, "You are the salt of the earth, and you are the light of the world." And these are a bit weird. Like some of us have heard these sayings a lot, but when you think about it, you are the light of the world I kind of get. When it's dark, you can't see where to go, you run into things, you don't know if there's a lion coming for you. But, and we often talk about God as the light, and Jesus as the light. Yeah, absolutely. Or children as the light. So that lets you see, that lets other people see. But you are the salt of the earth. This one I find a bit trickier. When I was growing up, we couldn't have too much salt in our food. It was a big thing to have not too much salt because my dad had a thing where he had high blood pressure and he couldn't have too much salt. And so I'm so used to being salt is bad. But actually salt is good too. There's lots of stories in the Bible where you have to bring offerings to God. A lot of those are food offerings, grain offerings, and they explicitly say make sure you salt it first. Don't skimp out on the salt. So my hobby at the moment has been making bread. Anyone who's talked to me in the last 3 months or has gone to a dinner party with me has tasted my bread because I'm having a lot of fun. Proof. Well, where's yours? So, there is salt in the recipe, and I'm like, is the salt, how important is the salt? What does the salt do? So I have 2 versions of my bread. I have a version with salt in it, which is my normal recipe, and then I have a version without salt in it. And the invitation will be for those who can eat bread to taste it and see if you can tell which one has salt in it, and think about what it means to be that little bit of salt in the world. And I did have an offering, if there's anyone who was little and wanted to have some bread now, then they were welcome to do so. But for the big people, we're going to do it later in a thing. But if Poppy wants some bread, you're welcome to try it.
You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. People do not light a lamp and put it under the bushel basket. Rather, they put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
So you got the first half of my sermon before the reading. I've got a few extra thoughts. And then I have a reading from someone else that I thought was interesting. And then you're all going to get a chance to think about salt and light with food with salt in it and candles. And then we have a song that I think sums up what we're talking about here, which is a song that most of you probably don't know, but Charlie has offered to help sing for us. So, as I mentioned earlier, this reading fits in the Gospel of Matthew as Jesus is going around proclaiming the good news and curing diseases and sickness from all of the people. While he's doing this, he attracts a great crowd, presumably including the sick and the disenfranchised and the picnic lunch and all the other things we discussed earlier. And it's at the beginning of this sermon we get the reading that I don't know if you heard last week because I wasn't here, that we call the Beatitudes. So Jesus starts by saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And it continues, as some of you may remember. And who is Jesus talking to? Jesus is talking to the people who are already these things. He is talking to the people who are already poor, that you are blessed. The people who mourn, that you will be comforted. These aren't the powerful. There's probably some powerful people in there, but they're not just the powerful people in the world, or the people who have everything together in their life. This is people like you and me. And it is a statement that God loves us all in all our brokenness. And then directly following the Beatitudes, we get our reading for today. You are the salt of the earth, and you are the light of the world. You are. There's a couple things I notice here. Not Jesus is the light of the world, which we hear later in John, that Jesus is the light of the world. Not God is the light of the world, the shining pillar of flame that led the people out of Egypt. But you are, we are. That's a change. And it's that you already are. This is not an exhortation to be something more, to go do. It's you are already the salt of the earth and the light of the world. There's comments about don't hide your light under a bushel basket. I always wondered what a bushel basket was. I didn't look it up. Someone can tell me later. But you don't put a light and hide it. You want it to shine. You want your salt to taste of salt. But it doesn't stop you being light. It doesn't stop you being salt. Just the fact that you're not letting it be seen for the world. So if we are already the light of the world, what does it mean then to let our light shine for all to see? I remember when I was a university student, I was on exchange in England, in Exeter, and a friend from uni, Daniel from the Methodist and Anglican Society, invited me along to a high Anglican church service, we were discussing different styles of worship, and he said I should experience the highest of high church. So I knew what it was. This was a lot more high church than anything I'd seen in Canberra or in the country town Armidale where I grew up, for sure. And when I say high church, what do I mean? I mean robes and incense and processions. I mean the cross on a stick. You know, you got a big stick and you got a cross on the top that they walk in, and then the sanctuary party walks behind. It's always pipe organ and choir, and the choir is like semi-professional, like 4-part. There's like an introit, and you know, some of you would know this style. We used to do this here, apparently. Though you don't have a fancy pipe organ, so I don't know. We don't. Amanda says that we don't have the fancy minister to do the fancy service. But this is a kind of service where everyone knows what they're doing. They know their place in the ceremony, which I really enjoy when I know what I'm doing and I know my place in the ceremony. But when you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea what to do, what to follow. When half the room does something, like the kneeling seems to be an optional thing. If you feel like you want to kneel during the prayers, you can kneel, and some people don't. And I'm like, well, what are the rules for who kneels and who doesn't kneel? How are you supposed to do it? How do you cross yourself? I have no idea. I grew up in a Uniting church. Maybe Andy will tell me later. So I've been to some high church services and I always feel like tense. But I went with Daniel, and he was next to me, and he just did it. He didn't care what I thought. He didn't care what anybody else thought. He stood up when he wanted to stand up. He knelt when he wanted to kneel. He crossed himself when he felt like it, where it felt appropriate. And there was something in that freed me up to do what I wanted to do in that space. I could enter into it as myself because Daniel was entering into it as himself. And I didn't do exactly the same thing as Daniel. I didn't have to do the same thing as Daniel. But his being comfortable and letting others see who he was and what he was doing let me be free as well. So that's what I think of when I think of letting our light shine. We don't always know who's seeing it and how they're responding. I never told him that. Then in our second half of the reading, we have a passage that's kind of a bridge between this opening section where it's talking about the crowd's relationship with God and our next couple of chapters, which talk about how God's people should interact with the world and how they should interpret the law. You may be familiar with some of these passages that are coming. There's a lot of, you heard it was said, but I say to you. You have heard it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. We've got these stories of the law that Jesus is reinterpreting. And before he gets into that, Jesus sits on this mountain, as Moses sat on a mountain when he delivered the 10 Commandments. Jesus sits on this mountain and he makes it clear that he is not replacing the law of Moses. That law was good. That law was from God. But the people have missed its full glory, and Jesus has come to guide us into living out that law well. And what does it mean to live out that law well? Later on in Matthew, one of the Pharisees asked Jesus, which commandment is the greatest, to test him. And Jesus replies, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So when we say Jesus has come to fulfill the law, that is the law that Jesus has come for. So that's hopefully a few thoughts to get you started. And I was having a look at various readings, and I came across this passage from Sarah Bessey in my favourite book, A Rhythm of Prayer. I read from this last time I was up here. And The idea that you are already the light of the world resonated for me in this. So this is called A Reminder by Sarah Bessey. You don't have to be productive, and you don't have to change the world. You're already so loved. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be simple. You don't have to read all the right books by the right people. You're already so loved. You don't have to be beautiful and thin with an articulated and ironic fashion sense, not at all. But if you're into that kind of thing, well, that's okay too. You don't have to be healthy in your mind or your body. You don't have to be in full-time vocational ministry. You can watch horrible television, or you can be proud of your televisionless home. You can be artistic or scientific. You can spend your life traveling to meet beautiful people, or you can live and die in the town where you were born. You don't have to conform to someone else's ideas of holy or acceptable. You can be from the wrong side of the tracks or the gated community, suburbs or urban or rural. You can work with your hands and your mind, your back and your brain. You don't have to be educated, not at all. You don't have to have a degree or letters after your name. You don't have to know the right people or boast a carefully curated Instagram feed with the famous and the beautiful and the influential. You don't have to be conservative, and you don't have to be liberal. You don't have to identify with certain political persuasions or ideology on sexuality or science or socioeconomics or foreign policy. You can be a social justice warrior or, not. None of that moves the meter on your belovedness. God won't say, okay, now I love her just a bit more because look, she is finally out of debt, or thin, or powerful, or influential, or tireless. Your family story can be beautiful or terrible, or, like most of us, a bit of both. Perhaps you're famous or well-known or influential. That's okay. Perhaps you're quiet and unknown. Maybe you hate that. Maybe you love it. You don't have to be a mother or a father. You don't have to be married. You don't have to be single. You don't have to want children or raise children. You don't have to be sober or clean. You don't have to give away everything you own and take a vow of poverty. You don't have to be prosperous either. Church or no church, or a certain kind of church only, whatever. You can doubt or feel great certainty, even if that certainty is in your doubt. You can believe in God, doubt God, seek God. You can be someone well acquainted with unanswered questions and prayers. You can carry chronic pain or dance through life. You can be introverted or extroverted. You don't have to love yourself or even like yourself. You are loved. Whether your life looks well put together from the outside while hiding a hot mess inside, or vice versa, sometimes on the same day, you are loved. Morning lark, night owl, sinner, saint, child of God, siblings, all of us. We are loved. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to earn. Sure, any one of those things might change because you are loved. You may know already where God wants to breathe change and wholeness into you, bringing your life more into line with the person you were meant to be all along. Love can and does and will transform us in every way. Our ideology, our opinions, our habits, our values, our priorities, our very names. But it's not a prerequisite or a requirement. It's not behavior modification. It never is. Not for love. Love has happened, and it is happening, and it will happen. It is kind and patient towards you. You're already so loved. You aren't earning a breath of love or tenderness more than what you already have just by breathing, just by existing, just by being here in the wonder. Your name is already written in the lines of the hands of the universe. Your star breath of dust, and you are beloved, intimately, faithfully, wholly. It's your lifelong rock. You are known. You are loved with delight and abundance, with choice and desire, with covenantal love. You may feel it or not, but you are so loved. You are so loved. You are so loved. Amen. So, as we reflect, I wanted to give you a chance to think, or to ponder, or to pray, or to meditate and let your mind just be empty. To give you a chance to see and taste the light and the salt rather than just think about it. So we're going to have some music that we'll play. We have some candles. There's some at the front and there's some at the table at the back. You're invited to come and light a candle. There's a taper there so you don't get your fingers burnt moving the candles around. And as you light it, think what it means that you are already the light of the world. And what does it mean to let that light shine? And you're invited, if you want, to take a piece of the 2 loaves of bread and see if they taste different to you. See if you can taste the salt. There's also rice crackers for the gluten-free. I don't have non-salt rice crackers. You have to imagine what the salt is doing in the rice crackers. What does it mean to be that little bit of salt making a change in the world? This might take a little while. There's a bunch of us. Let it take time. We're not in a rush. Feel God, feel the Spirit moving as you do this.